Alex had always imagined his first year on the orbital research station would be quiet. He pictured long evenings spent reading manuals, drinking instant coffee, and watching the slow swirl of stars outside the thick glass panels. When the housing officer handed him a key card and said he would have a roommate, he felt only mild surprise. But when the sliding door to his tiny cabin opened, the air seemed to hold its breath. Standing there was someone who was not human. She was tall and slim, with skin like polished silver under the soft station lights. Her eyes glowed a gentle blue, brighter than any LED Alex had seen. Thin, faintly luminescent hair drifted as if in a slow current, though the cabin's air was still. She wore a fitted dark suit with thin lines of pale light running along the seams, like constellations stitched into fabric. For a heartbeat, Alex forgot how to speak. He'd seen news reports about the Galactic exchange, of course. Humans had only recently been invited to share research with other species, but he'd never expected to live with one. "Greetings," she said at last. Her voice was warm but careful, like someone who had practiced the language many times. "I am Lyra of Vesh. You are Alex Mason?" He swallowed and nodded. "Yeah, that's me." Lyra stepped into the small room and looked around with a calm curiosity. The cabin was barely larger than a shipping container. 2 bunks, a single desk, and a small porthole showing endless black sky dotted with stars. The recycled air smelled faintly of metal and antiseptic. Alex moved aside so she could pass. "So, you're my roommate?" "Yes," she said simply. "Our names were paired. I hope this is acceptable." "Sure," he said quickly, though his mind buzzed with questions. Lyra placed a small shining case on the lower bunk and touched the wall as if feeling its vibration. "Your world spins faster than I imagined," she said almost to herself. "It hums with impatience," Alex blinked. Thanks?" She turned back to him and smiled, a small curve of silver lips. "It is a compliment." The hours that followed passed in a blur of newness. Alex tried to act normal while she unpacked small crystal containers that glowed faintly from within. She explained in her measured way that these held nutrient spheres and delicate tools for her research. They sat at the narrow desk, sharing a pot of synthetic tea while the station's artificial night settled. Alex found himself asking about her world, Vesh, a planet with twin moons and rivers of liquid light. Lyra described endless crystal plains that sang when the wind passed through them. Her words were simple but carried a music that filled the cramped room. Alex told her about Earth, about crowded cities and warm rain on cracked sidewalks. She listened with quiet wonder, asking small, thoughtful questions. "Does the rain hurt when it falls? Does your sky always smell of salt near the water?" With every question, the strangeness of her presence softened. Later, as Alex prepared for bed, he caught Lyra studying the 2 bunks with a puzzled tilt of her head. Her luminous eyes reflected the dim cabin lights like twin sapphires. "Why are there 2 sleeping platforms?" she asked. "That's how humans do it," Alex said, climbing into his own bunk. Lyra blinked slowly. "Interesting." Alex tried to read on his tablet, but his thoughts kept circling back to the quiet figure below. The hum of the station wrapped around them like a soft, endless heartbeat. He realized he was no longer nervous. Instead, he felt a strange comfort, as if the room itself had shifted into something alive and welcoming. As he drifted toward sleep, Alex heard Lyra speak softly in her own language, a series of gentle, ringing sounds like distant chimes in a calm night. He didn't understand a single word, but the melody settled around him like a blanket. The next morning, Alex woke to the soft hum of the station and the gentle glow of the stars beyond the small porthole. For a moment, he forgot he had a roommate. Then he heard a quiet bell-like voice. "Good morning, Alex." He blinked and turned his head. Lyra sat cross-legged on her bunk, silver skin catching the pale light. She held a crystal sphere in her hands, the faint glow inside pulsing like a slow heartbeat. "Morning," he said, rubbing his eyes. "What's that?" "My nourishment," she explained with a small smile. "It is both food and drink. Would you like to taste?" He hesitated, then nodded. Lyra touched the sphere and a thin layer of shimmering mist rose. It smelled faintly of honey and clean rain. Alex took a cautious sip. Sweet, cool warmth spread through his chest. "Wow," he said, surprised. "That's really good." Lyra tilted her head, amused. "Your heart rate increased. Is it too strong?" "No," Alex said quickly. "It's perfect. Way better than the coffee here." As the artificial day cycle began, they decided to explore the station together. Alex guided Lyra through narrow corridors lined with glowing panels and the low hiss of circulating air. Crew members glanced at them, some curious, some startled. Lyra walked with unhurried grace, her luminous hair flowing like quiet water. She asked about every detail, the way the lights flickered when the generator shifted, the faint vibration beneath their feet, the human habit of posting handwritten notes on bulkheads. "Why leave markings?" she asked, stopping to study a small paper sign taped to a door. "To remind ourselves," Alex explained. "It's a way of saying this is important." Lyra considered this. "On Vesh, we carve memory into crystal. It sings our names when touched. Perhaps these notes are your songs." Alex smiled. "I never thought of it like that." They ate lunch in the common hall, a mix of human crew and off-world researchers. Alex chose a tray of protein noodles. Lyra carried another faintly glowing sphere. A young technician from Mars sat nearby and raised an eyebrow. "New roommate, Mason?" "Yeah," Alex said casually, though he felt a flicker of protectiveness under the stares. "This is Lyra of Vesh." Lyra bowed her head politely. "Peace to your work," she said in careful English. The technician blinked, then smiled awkwardly. Thanks." When he left, Lyra leaned closer. "Your kind observes with eyes that ask many questions, even when lips are silent." "That's humans for you," Alex said. "We're curious, and sometimes rude." "I do not mind," she said softly. "Curiosity is the first step of friendship." That evening, they returned to the cabin. The station lights dimmed to the soft blue of night. Alex sat at the small desk, pretending to review data, but his mind kept circling back to the quiet comfort of her presence. Lyra knelt beside the lower bunk, arranging her glowing containers. After a moment, she looked up. "Alex," she said, "may I ask about your sleep custom?" "My sleep custom?" She gestured toward the two bunks. "You said humans rest on separate platforms. Is that always so?" "Yeah," Alex said, confused. "It's normal for us. On Vesh," Lyra began gently, "companions share a sleeping place. We believe warmth and heartbeat build trust. It is natural." Alex froze, the words echoing in the small cabin. "You mean, you want to share a bed?" "Yes," she said, tilting her head in innocent curiosity. "Is this not comfortable for you?" He nearly dropped his tablet. "Humans, usually don't do that unless they're close. Like really close." Her luminous eyes widened slightly. "Close as in mating?" His face burned. "Yeah, kinda." Lyra's expression softened with understanding. I see the confusion. On Vesh, it is not of that nature. It is simply connection, a way to keep each other safe. Our bodies rest better when another heartbeat is near." Alex opened his mouth, then closed it again. He had no idea what to say. Silence filled the room except for the low hum of the station's engines. Alex stared at the small porthole, the endless dark beyond it. Sharing a bed with an alien wasn't something he'd ever imagined. "I do not wish to cause you discomfort," Lyra said quietly. "I can honor your custom if you prefer distance." Her voice carried no pressure, only a gentle sincerity that tugged at him. He looked at her, silver skin catching the dim blue light, and saw no judgment, only an openness that felt rare and honest. I'll think about it," he said finally. Lyra inclined her head. "That is kind." Hours later, Alex lay awake on his bunk. He could hear Lyra's slow, even breathing below. He tried to focus on the steady rhythm, but his mind replayed her words about trust and heartbeat. Back on Earth, he had always slept alone. The idea of sharing space so closely with someone, especially someone from another world, was both unsettling and strangely comforting. The station hummed like a distant lullaby. Alex found himself matching his breaths to the soft sound of hers, and to his surprise he felt a deep calm settle over him. Far beyond the porthole, countless stars shone cold and bright, but in the small cabin a new warmth began to grow, something fragile and unexpected, like the first spark of friendship in the endless night. Alex spent the next day trying to focus on his duties, but his thoughts kept slipping back to Lyra's quiet request. The idea of sharing a bed with his alien roommate felt impossible, and yet somehow, not frightening. He found himself listening for her soft voice even when she wasn't nearby. When the station lights dimmed to signal night, Alex returned to their cabin. Lyra was already there, sitting cross-legged on the lower bunk. a faint silver glow tracing the lines of her hair. She looked up as he entered, her blue eyes gentle and patient. "You are thoughtful," she said. "Did you decide?" Alex rubbed the back of his neck. It's strange for me. But maybe we can try, just as friends." Lyra's expression softened into something warm. "As friends," she agreed. Alex changed into his sleep clothes, his hands a little shaky. The cabin felt smaller than usual, filled with the low hum of life support fans. He slid onto the lower bunk beside her, careful to keep a polite distance. The mattress was wider than it looked, but he could still feel the quiet energy of her presence. "You may relax," Lyra whispered. "This is not a test. Just breathing. Just trust." Alex exhaled, trying to loosen the knot in his chest. "Okay." The faint scent of rain and something electric surrounded her, gentle but unfamiliar. He noticed the soft glow of her skin, like moonlight on water. When she shifted slightly, the warmth of her body reached him through the thin fabric of his shirt. They lay there in silence. The station's engines hummed, steady as a distant heartbeat. Alex's mind wandered. How strange and vast the galaxy was, how small he felt, and how remarkable it was that two lives from different stars could meet in one narrow room. Lyra spoke softly. "Your heart is fast." Alex laughed nervously. "Humans get nervous. Why?" He thought for a moment. "Because this is new. Because I don't want to mess it up." "You cannot break what is meant to grow," she said gently. "Breathe with me." She placed her palm lightly against his upper arm. Her skin was cool, almost silky. Slowly she inhaled, a soft rising sound, and Alex followed. Their breaths matched, slow in, slow out, until the tension in his shoulders eased. Minutes passed, maybe hours. The hum of the station became a lullaby. Alex felt the weight of space around them, but it no longer felt cold. He felt her heartbeat through the thin layers between them, steady, calm, a rhythm older than any language. "Better," Lyra whispered. "Your rhythm joins mine." Alex smiled in the dark. "Guess so. This is the way of Vesh," she continued, her voice a gentle music. "When two share rest, fear leaves the body. Dreaming becomes clear. We wake with stronger spirit." "That sounds nice," he murmured, already drifting. As sleep crept in, Alex thought of home, of rainy nights on Earth when he'd listen to the distant city sounds and feel utterly alone. Here, on a station surrounded by endless black, he should have felt lonelier than ever. Instead, warmth and quiet connection filled the space where loneliness used to live. He turned slightly, careful not to disturb her. "Thanks, Lyra," he whispered, "for this." "You are welcome," she replied softly. "Thank you for trusting." Her words settled like a soft blanket over his mind. When Alex woke again, he didn't know how many hours had passed. The cabin was still dark, but he sensed the gentle glow of Lyra's skin beside him. For a moment he lay still, listening to the calm rhythm of her breathing. He realized he felt more rested than he had in months. Lyra stirred and opened her eyes, the faint blue light brightening as she looked at him. "You slept deeply," she said with quiet satisfaction. "Yeah," Alex admitted. "Best sleep I've had in a long time." She smiled, a small and graceful curve of silver lips. "The custom works." As they rose to start their day, Alex felt a subtle shift inside him. The galaxy was still vast and full of unknowns, but he no longer felt like a small, isolated traveler. Sharing a simple night of trust with someone from a world of crystal plains had changed something he couldn't yet name. He knew the station crew might whisper, and human customs might raise eyebrows, but none of that mattered as much as the calm certainty he carried now. For the first time in years, Alex felt a quiet, solid connection, proof that even across light years, two hearts could find a shared rhythm. The following days on the station moved in a gentle rhythm. Alex found himself looking forward to each evening, when the lights dimmed and the artificial night spread like a soft curtain across the corridors. Work hours felt less heavy, and the long shifts of cataloging samples seemed to pass faster. He noticed how much calmer he felt, and he could not ignore the reason. Every night he and Lyra shared the same bunk, and every night he slept as if the stars themselves guarded their room. Lyra's presence was steady and quiet, like the sound of a slow tide. She listened when Alex spoke about Earth, about heavy clouds before a storm, about the smell of wet concrete, about music played in subway tunnels. Sometimes she closed her eyes while he talked, as if she could see each memory in her mind. One evening, After a long day of repairs in the science bay, Alex entered their small cabin and found Lyra sitting cross-legged in near darkness. The only light came from the faint silver glow of her skin and the soft blue of her eyes. She held one of her crystal spheres in her lap, its inner light flickering gently. "You are quiet tonight," she said. "Long day," Alex replied, dropping onto the bunk beside her. "The coolant pumps were a nightmare, but it's fixed now." She tilted her head, the blue in her eyes deepening. "Your shoulders carry weight. Breathe with me as before." Alex smiled faintly. "Yeah, that sounds nice." They inhaled together, slow and even, until the tension left his muscles. The familiar calm settled over him. After a while, Lyra set the sphere aside and spoke in a low voice. "Alex, may I share something?" "Private? Of course," he said, sensing the fragile edge in her tone. She looked toward the small porthole where distant stars shone like cold fire. "On my world, when the Council of Vesh chose me for this mission, I was honored. To leave our crystal planes and study among the stars is a high call. Yet it is also a quiet exile. Those who travel so far are often forgotten. We return changed, and sometimes we never return." Her words hung in the still air. Alex felt a pinch in his chest. He had assumed that being chosen for an interstellar mission was only pride and excitement. But her voice carried a heavy sadness. "You feel alone," he said softly. "Yes," she admitted. "I speak to my kin through light pulses across the network, but it is not the same. I cannot hear their hearts. I cannot feel the wind that sings in the crystal fields. Some nights I fear they will no longer know me when I go back." Alex turned toward her, their knees almost touching. "I get that," he said. "When I left Earth, I told myself it was for adventure and science. But sometimes I miss the sound of rain so much it hurts, and I worry that people back home are moving on without me." Lyra met his gaze. "You understand?" "Yeah," Alex whispered. "More than I thought I would." The cabin seemed to shrink around them, holding only the low hum of the station and their shared heartbeat. Alex reached out, unsure, and rested his hand lightly on hers. Her skin felt cool and soft, with a faint vibration beneath, as if she carried the music of her distant world inside her veins. "You're not forgotten," he said, his voice steady. "Not while I'm here." For a long moment Lyra did not speak. Then she turned her hand, lacing her silver fingers gently with his. "Your words are a light, Alex," she said quietly. "You give shape to what I feared would stay only in shadow." Warmth rose in his chest. It wasn't the heat of attraction. It was something deeper and calmer, a shared recognition that reached across the gulf of worlds. Later that night, they lay side by side in their now familiar sleeping place. The station's hum wrapped around them like a distant lullaby. Alex could feel Lyra's slow breathing, the steady rhythm of her heart. "Do you ever regret coming here?" he asked softly. "There are moments of sorrow," she said after a pause, "but meeting you is not one of them." Alex smiled in the dark, though she might not see it. "I'm glad we met too." A soft silence followed, filled with the quiet comfort of trust. As he drifted toward sleep, Alex thought about how small their cabin was and how vast the galaxy beyond it remained. Yet somehow in this little pocket of light and warmth he felt closer to someone than he ever had on Earth. Outside, the stars burned cold and endless. Inside, two travelers, one of flesh and one of silver light, breathed together, their loneliness eased by the simple courage of shared truth. The next few weeks on the station carried a soft routine. Alex and Lyra worked side by side in the research labs, studied data on distant planets, and explored quiet corners of the orbiting structure during breaks. Their nightly routine never changed. They shared the lower bunk, falling asleep to the deep hum of the engines and the faint light of faraway stars. But word of their closeness began to spread. It started as a whisper in the cafeteria, two roommates, human and Veshian, sleeping together. Some humans smirked or exchanged knowing glances when Alex walked in. A few even teased him with half-hidden smiles. One evening, after a long day of sample analysis, Alex overheard a pair of technicians talking in the corridor. "Did you hear about Mason and the alien?" one of them said in a low voice. "Yeah," the other replied, a hint of laughter under the words. "Apparently they share a bed. Must be quite an interspecies experiment." They laughed and walked away without noticing Alex behind them. He stood frozen for a moment, heat rising in his chest, not from shame but from a protective anger. What they shared wasn't a joke. It was trust. Later that night, as Alex entered the cabin, Lyra looked up from her crystal sphere. "You are unsettled," she said, her voice a quiet bell. "People are talking," Alex admitted. He dropped onto the desk chair, rubbing his forehead. "They think things about us," Lyra tilted her head. "Things?" He hesitated, then sighed. "They think sharing a bed means something physical, romantic. They don't understand your custom." Her blue eyes dimmed slightly, like a cloud passing over a moon. "I see. I'm sorry," Alex said quickly. "It's not your fault." Lyra was silent for a long moment. "On Vesh, sharing rest is pure. It means only trust. I did not think it could bring harm." "It's not harm," Alex said. "Just gossip, but it bothers me." The next day, a formal message arrived from their supervisor, Commander Riggs. It requested a meeting. Alex felt a cold twist in his stomach as he and Lyra walked to the administrative wing. Commander Riggs sat behind a metal desk, his expression serious. "I've received reports about your sleeping arrangements," he said, his voice low but firm. "While I respect cultural differences, this station has rules to prevent complications. From now on, you will use separate bunks, clear?" Alex opened his mouth, but Lyra placed a gentle hand on his arm, signaling him to stay calm. She spoke first, her voice steady. "Commander, this is a tradition of my people. It is not of the nature you fear," Riggs frowned. "Be that as it may, it creates discomfort among the crew. I expect compliance. That is final." The walk back to their cabin felt longer than ever. The corridors, usually humming with life, seemed cold and empty. When they reached their door, Lyra paused before opening it. Inside, the room felt different, smaller, colder, as if the order itself had stolen the warmth. Alex sat on the edge of the lower bunk while Lyra stood silently near the porthole. "I should not have asked you to share my custom," she said quietly. "It brings trouble." "No," Alex said quickly. "This isn't on you. Riggs doesn't get it. None of them do. But rules aren't always right," Alex interrupted. "What we have isn't wrong." Lyra turned to him, her luminous hair catching the dim light. "If we continue, you could face punishment. A mark on your record. That matters to your people." Alex looked into her glowing eyes and felt a sharp clarity. Some things matter more than a record. Night came, and for the first time in weeks, they prepared to sleep apart. Lyra lay on the lower bunk. Alex climbed to the upper one. The distance between them felt heavier than gravity. Alex stared at the ceiling, listening to the station's hum, and felt a deep ache. The quiet heartbeat he'd grown used to was missing. The air felt colder, sharper. He turned, trying to sleep, but the emptiness pulled at him like a tide. Below, Lyra shifted restlessly. "This silence," she whispered, "is heavy." "Yeah," Alex murmured. "I hate it." He climbed down and sat on the edge of her bunk. She looked up at him, blue eyes shimmering with a sadness he had never seen before. "I don't care what they say," Alex said firmly. "This us, what we share, it's not wrong. I'd rather face their rules than lose this." Lyra's gaze softened, but she shook her head. "You would face trouble for me?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "Because you're my friend. And because this matters." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Lyra reached out and took his hand, her silver fingers trembling slightly. "Your heart is brave," she said softly. "On Vesh, we honor those who protect connection. Perhaps humans do too." Alex felt a quiet strength settle in his chest. He realized that no rumor or regulation could define the simple truth between them. What they shared was not just a custom. It was trust, and trust was worth fighting for. Outside their small cabin, the station moved through endless darkness, stars glimmering like cold fire. But inside, a decision had been made, silent and strong, brighter than any star beyond the glass. The station morning came with its usual soft chime, but Alex felt no sense of calm. He lay awake long before the lights brightened, staring at the ceiling of the upper bunk. The cold distance between him and Lyra from the night before still ached in his chest. The hum of the engines, once comforting, now sounded like a dull reminder of the rule that tried to separate them. He turned his head and peeked down. Lyra sat on the lower bunk, her back straight, her silver skin glowing faintly in the half-light. She was still as a statue, hands folded in her lap. "You didn't sleep either?" Alex said softly. Her luminous eyes lifted toward him. The silence was heavy, she said. It is like a storm with no wind. Alex climbed down and sat beside her. I keep thinking about what Riggs said, how it's inappropriate. But what we have isn't wrong. Lyra studied his face, her gaze gentle but searching. You may face punishment, she said quietly. Your people value rules. A mark on your record can close many doors. I know, Alex admitted. But I can't pretend this doesn't matter. What we share, it's more than just a bunk. It's trust. And trust is worth more than some report in a file. Their work that day felt endless. Alex struggled to focus on his tasks in the research lab, his mind running in circles. He remembered the sound of Lyra's voice when she spoke of the crystal plains of her home. He thought about the calm nights when they breathed together until their hearts matched. Those moments were more real than the sterile data scrolling across his screen. During the lunch break, he found Lyra in the observation dome sitting near the wide glass that showed the infinite black of space. Stars stretched like rivers of silver dust. She didn't turn when he approached, but he sat beside her, close enough to feel the cool shimmer of her presence. My people believe, Lyra said quietly, still looking at the stars, that when you meet a soul who calms the storms in your heart, you are bound to them. Not by law, not by blood, by choice. Alex felt her words settle deep inside him. I think humans believe something like that too, he said. Maybe we just don't say it as beautifully. She finally turned her head, her eyes glowing like soft blue lanterns. What will you choose, Alex Mason? Alex met her gaze. I choose us, whatever that means, whatever trouble comes. That evening, they walked together to Commander Riggs's office. The corridors were quiet, the low vibration of the station like a distant drum. Alex felt his heart pound, but he held his head high. Riggs looked up from his console as they entered. I hope you two are following the new sleeping order, he said, his voice clipped. Alex stood straighter. Commander, I need to explain, he began. What Lyra and I share isn't what people think. On her world, sleeping near someone isn't about romance or anything physical. It's about trust and peace. I know it sounds strange to us, but it's their way. And it's important to me too. Riggs's brows furrowed. Mason, regulations, with respect, sir, Alex interrupted, his voice firm. Regulations are meant to keep the crew safe and focused. This isn't harming anyone. It helps us both. I sleep better. I work better. We're still professional. We just share a tradition that means something real. Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm but clear. Commander, I would not risk the mission or my friend's future. This is only the custom of my people. If we must stop, we will. But I ask for understanding. We wish for no trouble. Only respect for a harmless way of rest. Riggs studied them for a long moment. His eyes shifted between Alex's steady gaze and Lyra's calm expression. Finally, he exhaled. I can't change the crew's gossip, he said slowly. But if this is truly cultural and not disruptive, I will not enforce the order. Keep your work excellent and keep it discreet. Relief flooded Alex's chest. Thank you, sir. Back in their cabin, Alex closed the door and leaned against it, feeling the tension drain from his shoulders. Lyra stood near the porthole, the soft glow of her skin reflecting the stars. You spoke with courage, she said softly. That is rare and precious, Alex smiled a little shy. I just told the truth. You chose, she said, stepping closer. Not the easy path. The honest one. Yeah, he said, meeting her eyes. I choose us. Night fell across the station. They lay side by side again, the warmth and rhythm of their breathing filling the quiet space. The room felt alive again, as if the stars outside recognized the choice they had made. Lyra whispered, Humans are known for many things. Invention, conflict, curiosity. But tonight I learned another truth. You are fierce in protecting connection. Alex smiled in the dark. Guess that's our custom. She turned her head slightly, her silver hair brushing his cheek. Then our customs are not so different. Alex closed his eyes, feeling the steady beat of her heart against the quiet hum of the station. He no longer cared about gossip or rules. All that mattered was the simple, unshakable trust they shared, a bond stronger than distance, brighter than the cold stars that burned beyond the glass. The station drifted through a velvet ocean of stars, its slow rotation keeping a quiet beat against the endless dark. Inside the small cabin, Alex and Lyra sat together at the narrow desk, a soft light from her crystal sphere painting silver ripples across the walls. The tension of the past weeks had faded, replaced by a calm so deep it almost felt sacred. Alex stirred a cup of bitter station coffee while Lyra traced patterns in the thin steam with a delicate finger. "You are quieter than usual," she said, her voice warm as a gentle chime. "Just thinking," Alex replied. He watched the dark liquid swirl, about how strange it is. "We're light years from Earth, and yet this room feels more like home than anywhere I've been." Lyra tilted her head, the faint blue glow in her eyes softening. "Home is not always a place. Sometimes it is a heartbeat you trust." The simple truth of her words settled in him like a warm weight. Later, they walked the observation ring. Through the wide glass, the stars burned in their silent billions, and a distant nebula glowed like a ghostly rose. Lyra pressed her palm to the cold window. "On Vesh," she said, "we believe each star is a memory. When someone we love lives far away, we whisper to the sky, and the light carries our voice." Alex looked at the endless scatter of stars and imagined his own memories floating there. His mother's laughter, the smell of city rain, the soft hum of a guitar on a quiet night. "I like that," he said. "It makes the universe feel less empty." They stood together, watching the endless dark until their reflections blurred into the stars themselves. When they returned to their cabin, a message light blinked on Alex's console. It was from Earth, a simple text from his sister telling him she missed him. Alex smiled, but a small ache tugged at his chest. "You miss your family," Lyra said softly, reading his expression with gentle accuracy. "Yeah," Alex admitted. "I worry they'll forget me while I'm out here." Lyra touched his arm, her cool silver fingers a quiet comfort. "They will not forget. Your heart is tied to theirs. Distance does not break that thread." He covered her hand with his own. "Kind of like us, huh?" Her blue eyes brightened. "Yes, like us." Night settled again. The hum of the engines filled the air like a slow heartbeat. They lay side by side on the lower bunk, the habit now as natural as breathing. Lyra turned toward him. "I will leave when the mission ends," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "My council may call me to another star. You may return to Earth. The distance will be great." Alex felt a pang, sharp and sudden. He hadn't allowed himself to think of the mission's end. "I know," he said quietly. "I fear that when we part, the silence will return," Lyra confessed. "The silence that is heavy." Alex reached for her hand, holding it tightly. "It doesn't have to be silence," he said. "We'll find a way to stay connected. Messages, calls, whatever it takes. I promise you won't be forgotten." "Not by me." Her fingers tightened around his. "Your promise is strong. In my culture, a promise of the heart is a bond of stars." "Then it's a bond of stars," Alex said, his voice steady. They lay there for a long time, listening to the quiet song of the station. Alex could feel her heartbeat, slow and sure, matching the rhythm of his own. He thought of the gossip that had once followed them, the rules they had quietly defied, the choice they had made to trust each other. All of it seemed small now compared to the simple truth of this moment. "Lyra," he said softly, "meeting you has been the best part of this mission. Maybe the best part of my life." She turned her luminous eyes toward him, their blue light reflecting tiny stars across the walls. "And meeting you has shown me that humans are more than curious explorers. You are brave in the heart. You fight for connection. I will carry that truth across every sky I travel." Outside, the stars burned cold and endless, but inside the narrow cabin, warmth flowed like a gentle tide. They drifted into sleep, breaths falling into the same quiet rhythm they had found that very first night. When Alex finally closed his eyes, he felt no fear of distance or time. He knew that even if galaxies stretched between them one day, the bond they had built, a bond of trust, heartbeat to heartbeat, would shine like a star that never fades. In the infinite silence of space, their promise glowed brighter than any sun.